am so excited to share this tutorial on how to hack the sparkle dress and top pattern into a completely new dress. This pattern has been living like rent-free in my mind for so long, and when I patterned it and then I sewed it and I shared it on Instagram, all of you guys were really excited, and so I figured I would make this tutorial so that you can hack it for yourself as well. You will need the original pattern pieces, which you can find on my Etsy shop if you don't already have them, and yeah, let's hop into it. I'm going to do this digitally because it's going to be a lot easier for me to show you that way, but you don't have to draft it digitally. You can take the pre-existing paper pattern pieces and then adjust them to your liking with paper. But yeah, I'm going to show you on the computer again because that's just the easiest way for me to go about it. These are all of the original pattern pieces. You will not need all of the original pattern pieces. So for example, we are going to be replacing this skirt by extending these panels here. These are not pieces that we are going to adjust. Those are just strap pieces. They're going to stay the same. This pattern piece is also going to stay the same, but just for visual effect, I'm going to show you what this all looks like over here. So I have already copy and pasted this over here and I've reflected it, which means that this is going to be like the entire bodice situation. This is the bust area, and then these are the panels that wrap around the stomach. This is center back and this is center back. So that's how that all gets sewn up together. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take all of these panels, we're just going to do half of them because they're just mirrored, and then we're going to extend them by a certain amount. So if you want to do the full length long version, we're going to extend them by about 34 inches. This is just for my personal preference, but it's also for my height. I am 5'5". So if you're not 5'5", let's say you're 5'6", I would maybe recommend doing 35 inches instead of 34 inches. Okay, so that is for the longer version. If you also want to do the shorter version instead, or in addition to, you're going to extend it by 18 inches. Again, adjust for your height accordingly. I am 5'5". Okay, something else that I want to talk about is the fabric consumption. Because of the way that we're drafting this, we are adding a lot of circumference to the like ankle length, and I guess really everywhere from like hip down, there's a lot of circumference. So basically it just means it's a lot of fabric consumption. All of that to say that the shorter version is going to have a lot less fabric consumption, so that's just something to consider depending on the fabric that you're using, if you're purchasing fabric or if you're just using fabric that you already have on hand. Okay, I am going to grab these pattern pieces. Oh, I just want these ones because these are the ones that we are going to be adjusting. And I also want this piece here. Okay. These are just my notes so I can keep an eye out for it. And here's what I want to do. I'm going to grab my line segment tool and I'm just going to talk you through this as if you were doing it digitally. So if you are doing it digitally, you can easily follow along. But again, this is going to be applicable to doing it on paper as well. Okay, so I want 18 inches. And let's do 90 degrees. Okay, so that's 18 inches. And then let's do another 34 inches. And there's no fill on these, so you can't see them. Let me adjust that. Okay, great. Now you can see those. They're really light. Let me also change the line weight. I'm going to do 0.05 inches. Now you should be able to see them better. Okay, so this is the additional length that we are adding to this level here. So I'm going to take this 18 inches here and add it there. And let me get that lined up like that. Okay, great. And then I'm going to take this 34 inches and add it like that. Okay, perfect. And actually maybe while I'm at it, I will change the color of this one so that we can see it better. And then pull this back over, and I need to change the layers of this so that you can see the red one. So the red one, oops, is going on top of the black one. Okay, it's still kind of hard to tell, but red is from here to here, and then black is all the way down there. Okay, so what I want to do is grab these pieces and just move them out of the way because we are only focusing on this center front panel for now. And then what I also want to do is I'm going to grab my lines, so the 18-inch line and the 34-inch line, and I'm going to copy and paste them over here, and we're going to reuse them. And what we're going to do is grab this here, okay, like that. And then I am going to grab my rotate tool, and I'm going to rotate it like this so that it is rotated perfectly on top of this line here. And I think I'm actually going to then rotate it from here so that this trajectory is nice. So I'm gonna pull that over. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, now that we know that this line is perfectly extending from this bodice here, I'm gonna pull this down so that it is at the Okay, great. So now what we've done is we've fully extended it perfectly on this trajectory by 18 inches, the red line, and then 34 inches, the black line, and then same thing here. And then ultimately we're going to need to create a hem level here and a hem level here. I'm going to continue doing this for the other pieces, and then we're going to do the hem level after because it's going to be easier to visualize. Okay, so let's grab this pattern piece and move it over. And I am going to do the exact same thing. So let's start by grabbing these, copy and paste them, and I want to move them down here. We need to change the trajectory of them again. So I'm going to grab these pieces and let's do this. Put it there, rotate it so that it is really nice like that. Okay, and now I'm going to grab those pieces and I'm going to put them on top of each other here. Okay, something like that. Trying to get them to be right on top of each other. Okay, great. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Grab those pieces, do something like this, and then rotate it on the correct trajectory like that. Okay, and now I'm going to grab them and pull them down like that. Okay, amazing. That's what that's looking like so far. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing again and again. So copy and paste. And then I'm going to grab this, this piece like that, and then rotate it like this. Okay, and then grab that and pull it down again. Okay, and the same thing with this. It's the same process over and over again. And then rotate. Pull it down. We're getting there, guys. Okay, copy and paste. Okay, let's start with this one like that and rotate it on this trajectory. And then grab it and pull it down. Hopefully you're getting the idea. And one last time. Rotate this like this. Okay, perfect. So here's what all of our pattern pieces are looking like so far. We have not finished the hem level. If you are just doing this on paper, I would take a long measuring piece like a yardstick or something, for example, and I would again just like use the trajectory of each line to go down as long as you want. It doesn't have to be 18 or 34 inches. If you want a really short dress, it can be shorter than 18 inches. If you want like something that's touching the floor and puddling, it can be longer than 34 inches. This is totally up to you. Okay, I am going to group all of these together just so that they're easy for me to move together like this. I'm just doing Command G. And then I'm going to grab these pieces and pretend like I'm sewing them together at this hip level. Okay, like that. Okay, and then grab this here and rotate it like this. Okay, and then like this. This is how everything gets sewn together. It looks a little bit wonky because obviously this is 1D and not pieces of fabric turning into a garment. Hopefully this is kind of making some sense to you. This is what the full skirt looks like. Okay, and this is kind of why it gets a little bit difficult to do this on paper, because in order to get this on a surface, it's going to be really, really large. And that's actually why I digitally created all of the pattern pieces for you, so that you didn't have to hack it if this ends up being too difficult or you just simply don't want to. But basically what we're going to do is we are going to create this hem level from here to here. For me, I'm going to pull a curve handle like that. And then I also want another curve handle to come out of this side like this. And now we can just like manipulate these curve handles to be exactly what we want them to be. So something like this. You basically just like play around with it until you have what you want. Let's see. Now this needs to come out. You see how it needs to be one like continuous line that goes through everything. And it's a little bit tricky to figure out because you want it to be the same length all the way around, right? And so maybe what would be easier, for example, is if I added, I'm gonna add right here another anchor point, which is going to allow me to customize it some more, like this. What do I want to do here? Maybe I'll pull this one. Yeah, okay, something like that. And so now this is this like really beautiful continuous hem. We need to do this again at this level, right? So if you zoom in really close, you can see that this is the red line. We want to do it again at this level. One thing that I want to check first is that when we sew the center back panel to itself, this isn't going to come to a point. So let me do that. Let's grab this. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll grab all of it. So I'm going to do Command C, Command F, so that's copy and paste on top. And then I am going to reflect it. Object, transform, reflect. Okay, I need to do it like this. Now I'm going to grab this piece here, pretend like we're sewing it together. And this is just center back and center back. Okay, awesome. So now if this were like one full circle around your body or full, all the pattern pieces around your body, it's gonna have this like really beautiful hem level and there's no weird pointiness at any one of these given corners. Amazing. What do I wanna do now? I'm gonna delete what I just did so that it's not visually distracting for us. What we want to do now is create another level here that's going to do the exact same thing. There's two different ways we can do it. We can draw it in the same way that we just drew this in. So let's start with that. I am going to grab this and we're going to go from here to here like that. And then I want to grab another curve out of here. So I'm going to pull a curve from there. And then the last thing I want to do is add an anchor point in the middle, just like we did before. And then I'm going to get everything lined up. So we'll grab this anchor point and pull it there. And then going to make sure that everything looks nice. Okay, this I want to be like that. And then this, let's see if I can get it to look exactly how I want. Something like that. Yeah, you just kind of have to play with it until it looks nice and continuous. So something like that would be nice. The other thing that I could do is I could offset this path so that it becomes at this level. Okay, so let me do some quick math here with my phone. We have 34 inches and we're going to subtract 18 inches. Okay, so this needs to be offset by 16 inches. So I'm going to grab that line here and I'm going to do object and then path and offset path. And I'm going to offset the path by 16 inches. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, it's looking a little crazy because I accidentally didn't take all the pieces that I wanted to. You see how this piece is live? I don't want that piece to be live. So let me cut it off. I only want to focus on this level here. Okay, great. Let's try that again. Object, path, offset path. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to press OK. And then I am going to delete these pieces that we don't need here and here. Then I'm going to grab this and delete it. Okay, and now you can see they are actually very, very similar to each other. The one that I drafted on my own and the offset path. The red one is the one that I drafted on my own. So I'm going to cut this here and then I'm going to delete that section. Okay, and so now this level and this level are like perfectly mirroring each other, just offset by 16 inches. And then I don't need this extra little bit here, so I am going to snip it off like that and then delete this little piece. Okay, amazing. So here's what all those pattern pieces are looking like. However, just based on the way that we drafted this digitally, they're not all separated out the way that they need to be. So you see when I click this, it's all attached to this pattern piece and they're not all individual pieces. We need to make them individual pieces so that we can sparse them apart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start cutting things up. I want to first cut up this hem level. So I'm gonna take my scissors tool, I'm gonna cut it here and here and here. Okay, so now those are all separate pieces, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this level here. Grab that, I'm gonna cut it right here, and right here. Okay, and then let's see what else is attached to. Okay, so things are getting funky just because of the way that they're all grouped up. So let me see if I can grab the pieces that I want. Let's take these pieces first and group them together. Nope, it's not gonna work because they're all in separate places. Let's see what's happening. Okay, I'm gonna grab all the pieces that are highlighted and move them into the group that I want them to be in because that's just gonna be the easiest way to do this. Okay, I think that'll be good. Great. Now I can grab these pieces and I can move them apart. Amazing. Now this is just one pattern piece. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna grab these pieces and see what groups they're landing in so that I can put them all into one group. Looks like they're all inside of here. So this is gonna go into this group. Is there anything else? Maybe that's it. Okay, now let's grab this. Perfect. And oops. Grab this and pull it apart. Okay. Oh, I didn't get this piece. I want that piece. Okay, let me go backwards. That's Command Z. And I'm gonna grab that piece, which is right here, and pull it into this layer here. Okay, amazing. Now I can take that piece and pull it over like this. Perfect. Okay, again, grabbing this piece, like this, and this, and now let's see where they're all living. Okay, this one is going into this group, and this one is going into this group, and now we should be able to move them apart. Okay, great, and let's make sure all these are together. Perfect. Okay, now we have all of our individual pieces and they're all grouped together as they should be. What I want to do next is take them and put them on grain. So let's grab them and pull them over here. And this one we know is already on grain because we didn't move it off grain. And then let's grab this one. I'm gonna pull it here and then rotate it like this. Great. And then grab this one like this and rotate it. Amazing. And grab this one like this and rotate it. Ooh. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now I'm gonna pull these down so that you can visualize it all, and I'm gonna pull them apart because right now they are overlapping each other. Okay, this is what your pattern pieces should be looking like, whether you're doing it digitally or you're doing it on paper. We have our 18-inch length and our 34-inch length, and all of the hem levels are beautiful and perfect so that when you sew this up, it's going to hang really nicely on your body. Okay, this can take a bit of time, especially if you are not doing it digitally and you're doing it on paper. It's also quite I guess it is fabric intensive, but it's also paper intensive. So let me, for example, just see, like this is 16 inches across. This is 22 inches across. almost 20 inches across. Yeah, you see how wide this is. So that'll just give you kind of an idea of how wide you need your paper to be if you are drafting this on paper, or maybe like taking paper pieces and shimmying them together and taping them together so that you have a big enough piece. But if you do not want to go through this entire process, you can also just purchase the pattern pieces that I have already digitized for you. I'll show you what those look like. So we have our file here for projecting. We have our file here for printing at home, and then we have our file here for if you're going to take it to a copy shop and you don't want to print it at home, you're going to just print it on 3 large pieces of paper. One thing I want you to notice though is that this is only the pattern pieces that we have adjusted. So it doesn't include that upper bust pattern piece, it doesn't include the strap pieces, and it doesn't include that extra skirt panel, because we didn't need to do anything to those. So this is an add-on. If you do purchase it, it's an add-on to the original pattern, or you can just not purchase it at all and you can totally hack it yourself using the tutorial that we just went through. I hope you found this super, super helpful. Now, before I sign off, I do want to talk a little bit about the construction. It's going to be similar, but not perfectly the same as the original construction, because of course the original construction is for different pattern pieces. So let me go back to this here, which is what we were working on together. And basically when you sew up the top version, you are sewing all these pieces together as they're currently laid out, and you're going to do the exact same thing, but just continue your sewing all the way down to this level. Now, the part that's a little bit different is going to be that you're going to need some sort of lining. All of these seams here are so curvy that you can't just serge them. You actually need to cut into them, otherwise it's gonna like add weird bubbling and it's not gonna fit around the curves of your body really nicely. And actually what I would recommend is that you do serge them, but then you snip into the serged area around these heavy curves. You don't need to do it at this level all the way down. You mostly just need to do it from like this notch level upward. And all of that is inside of the instructions. The reason that I wanted to say that though is because when you do the lining, you can either make the lining this level here, or you can make the lining stop at this level here. So here is about hip level, a little bit maybe above hip level. This notch indicates the waist level. And so you can just sew this together as one, and that will be the full lining. It'll stop right here. Or you can again do it at the longer level here, and that would be preferable, for example, if your main fabric is kind of see-through and you want the lining. If you just do this lining, it obviously like won't go down into the hip level, which is fine if your fabric isn't see-through, but you will need to have that lining, otherwise you're going to have some like exposed edges in here that have been snipped into and you don't want it to fray in the wash. You're going to put an invisible zipper in just like inside of the tutorial and inside of the original instructions, so you can follow all of that. One thing that I found that was really nice is I bias bound this edge right here as my lining edge, and it just like makes the inseam or the insides really, really nice. Yeah, and then you can just do like a standard hem here. You can basically follow the instructions, the original instructions and the original tutorial, and it'll get you to where you need to go. But yeah, I hope that you found this helpful and insightful. Even if you aren't planning to do this hack, I hope you found it insightful to like see how I would go about doing this digitally. I love sharing this type of content, so I hope you love it as well, and I cannot wait to see your sparkle dress.